Once upon a time, in a picturesque village cradled among the clouds, there lived a girl named Little Blue Lotus. She was destined to guide 10 people on their journeys of self-discovery and growth. After helping each individual learn their lessons, she would return to the cosmos and continue her own journey. Chapter 1: Dispelling the Clouds of Ignorance. One day, Little Blue Lotus met an old man named Mr. Stonewall, who was struggling with the affliction of ignorance. He had spent his entire life believing that material possessions and social status were the keys to happiness. He failed to recognize the true nature of reality, which was impermanent and ever-changing. Little Blue Lotus approached Mr. Stonewall with a warm smile and a kind heart. She listened intently to his stories, hoping to offer guidance and help him see the beauty in the impermanence of life. As they walked through the village, they came across a bustling market. Little Blue Lotus noticed Mr. Stonewall's eyes light up at the sight of fine clothes, extravagant jewelry, and other luxurious items. She gently took his hand and led him to a quiet spot near a beautiful tree, where they sat down together. Little Blue Lotus began to tell Mr. Stonewall a story about a king who had everything he could ever want, yet was never truly happy. As she spoke, she plucked a wilted flower that had fallen from the tree above them. This flower, though withered and fallen, was once a bright and beautiful blossom. It reminds us that nothing lasts forever, and that change is the only constant in life. Mr. Stonewall looked at the flower, and a glimmer of understanding sparkled in his eyes. Over the next few weeks, Little Blue Lotus and Mr. Stonewall spent time together, visiting different places in the village. They met people from various walks of life, each with their own stories of happiness and sorrow, success and failure. Through these encounters, Mr. Stonewall began to see the world in a new light. He started to let go of his attachment to material things and found joy in simple pleasures, such as watching the sunset or sharing a meal with a friend. One day, Little Blue Lotus took Mr. Stonewall to a nearby hill to witness the beauty of the sunrise. As they sat together in the quiet morning, she softly said, "Our possessions, relationships, and even our own bodies are subject to change. When we embrace the impermanence of life, we can find peace and happiness in each moment, rather than clinging to things that will eventually fade away." As Mr. Stonewall's heart opened to the true nature of reality, the clouds of ignorance that had once shrouded his mind began to dissipate. He started volunteering at the local orphanage, sharing his wisdom and newfound understanding with the children there. His once cold and distant demeanor transformed into one of warmth, kindness, and compassion. With her first mission accomplished, Little Blue Lotus prepared to help her next friend on their journey towards understanding and enlightenment. As she walked away from Mr. Stonewall's house, she felt a sense of joy and satisfaction, knowing that she had made a difference in his life and brought a little more light into the world. Chapter 2: dissolving the shadows of doubt. Little Blue Lotus continued her journey to help those in need. The next person she encountered was a young artist named Miss Willow, who was burdened with the affliction of doubt. Miss Willow was incredibly talented but lacked confidence in her abilities and questioned the worth of her creations. One day, Little Blue Lotus was strolling through the village when she came upon an art exhibition showcasing Miss Willow's work. She noticed the despair in the artist's eyes and decided to approach her with a comforting smile. "Your paintings are beautiful," she said softly. "Each stroke tells a story and brings joy to those who see it." Miss Willow sighed. "I appreciate your kind words, but I can't help but doubt myself. There are so many talented artists out there. What if my work isn't good enough?" Understanding Miss Willow's plight, Little Blue Lotus gently said, "When we let go of who we think we are, we become who we might be. We must let go of our doubts and fears to truly embrace our potential." Intrigued by the wisdom of Little Blue Lotus's words, Miss Willow and her newfound friend spent time together discussing the importance of believing in oneself. They talked about how self-doubt can hinder creativity and growth, while confidence and faith can nurture one's talents. One day, as they sat by a serene pond, Little Blue Lotus pointed to the calm water and said, "Our minds are like this water, reflecting the world around us. When our thoughts are filled with doubt, we see only turbulence and uncertainty. But when we let go of our doubts, the water becomes clear, and we can see the beauty in everything." Miss Willow pondered this thought and began to understand the wisdom in Little Blue Lotus's words. As her doubts started to fade, she created art that reflected her newfound confidence. Her work became more expressive and captivating, drawing the admiration of people from near and far. With the shadows of doubt now dissolved, Miss Willow's heart was filled with newfound courage and self-belief. Little Blue Lotus, satisfied that she had completed her second mission, set out to help the next person in need of her gentle guidance and wisdom. Chapter 3: Unraveling the Web of Wrong Views. As Little Blue Lotus continued her journey, she came across a middle-aged man named Mr. Narrowpath. He had spent his life adhering to a rigid set of beliefs and was afflicted with wrong views. Mr. Narrowpath struggled to accept ideas that challenged his worldview and dismissed the wisdom of others. Little Blue Lotus, with her gentle and empathetic demeanor, approached Mr. Narrowpath as he sat alone, deep in thought. "May I join you?" she asked, to which he reluctantly agreed. As they sat together, Little Blue Lotus listened patiently to Mr. Narrowpath's opinions and beliefs. Sensing his resistance to change, she decided to gently introduce him to the importance of being open-minded and flexible in one's thinking. "Mr. Narrowpath," she began, "have you ever noticed how a small seed can grow into a mighty tree? It's because it's open to receiving nourishment from the sun, rain, and soil. Likewise, when we open our minds and hearts to new ideas and experiences, we too can grow and flourish." Mr. Narrowpath considered her words, but he was not yet ready to let go of his long-held beliefs. Over the next few weeks, Little Blue Lotus continued to share stories that illustrated the value of open-mindedness. They discussed the lives of great thinkers and innovators who had challenged the status quo and brought about positive change in the world. One day, they went for a walk by a river, and Little Blue Lotus pointed to the flowing water. "Do you see how the river adapts to its surroundings, flowing around rocks and through narrow passages? Just like the river, we must learn to adapt our views and be open to new perspectives." Mr. Narrow Path pondered her words, watching the water's graceful movements. He started to question his own rigid beliefs and began to see the value of embracing different ideas. During their conversations, Little Blue Lotus shared a profound thought: the mind is like a parachute, it works best when it's open. When we let go of our preconceived notions and judgments, we can truly appreciate the beauty and wisdom in everything around us. As the days went by, Mr. Narrowpath's heart and mind gradually opened. He began to engage in thoughtful discussions with others, seeking to learn from their experiences and insights. His newfound openness allowed him to reconsider his beliefs and discover a richer, more nuanced understanding of the world. With Mr. Narrowpath's web of wrong views now unraveled, he felt a sense of freedom and inner peace he had never known before. Little Blue Lotus, having completed her third mission, set out to help the next person in need of her gentle guidance and wisdom. Chapter 4: Releasing the Chains of Attachment. Little Blue Lotus continued her mission to help those in need, traveling through the land in search of people with hearts clouded by afflictions. Her next encounter was with a woman named Mrs. Silkthread, whose life was consumed by attachment. She clung to material possessions, people, and experiences, believing that they were the source of her happiness. This strong desire, however, led to suffering as these things inevitably changed, were lost, or did not meet her expectations. When Little Blue Lotus met Mrs. Silkthread, she observed the woman's cluttered home, filled with objects she had hoarded over the years. She saw the strained relationships with her family and friends, a result of her possessiveness and fear of loss. With a warm and gentle smile, Little Blue Lotus approached Mrs. Silkthread and asked if she could help her organize her belongings. As they sorted through the many items, they began to discuss the nature of attachment and how it can lead to suffering. One day, while taking a break from their organizing, Little Blue Lotus shared a thought with Mrs. Silkthread. "Happiness is like a butterfly," she said. "If you try to grasp it tightly, it will slip through your fingers and fly away. But if you sit quietly and let it come to you, it will land gently on your shoulder." Mrs. Silkthread considered this and began to understand the wisdom in Little Blue Lotus's words. Over several weeks, Little Blue Lotus shared more stories and wisdom with Mrs. Silkthread, illustrating the beauty of letting go and the importance of finding happiness within oneself rather than in external sources. They spoke about the impermanence of life and how clinging to things only causes pain when they inevitably change or disappear. Together, they visited a nearby forest where Little Blue Lotus pointed to the falling leaves. Just as these leaves let go of the branches and float to the ground, we must learn to let go of our attachments and allow life to unfold naturally, she explained. As they walked through the forest, Little Blue Lotus shared a quote she had once heard, "You only lose what you cling to." Mrs. Silkthread contemplated this, realizing that her fear of losing things only led to more suffering. Mrs. Silkthread listened intently to Little Blue Lotus's teachings, and as she gradually released her attachments, she began to experience a profound sense of freedom and inner peace. She started to appreciate the simple joys of life, such as spending time with her loved ones or watching the sunset, without clinging to them or fearing their loss. One evening, as they watched the sun setting together, Mrs. Silkthread said, "Thank you, Little Blue Lotus, for showing me the way to true happiness. By learning to let go, I have found the peace and contentment that I have been searching for all my life." As the chains of attachment fell away, Mrs. Silkthread's heart became lighter, and she found herself surrounded by love and contentment. Little Blue Lotus, having completed her fourth mission, embraced Mrs. Silkthread with warmth and affection before setting off to help the next person in need of her gentle guidance and wisdom. Chapter 5: Calming the Storm of Aversion. Little Blue Lotus, having helped 4 individuals on their paths of self-discovery, continued her journey to find others in need of her gentle wisdom. Her next encounter was with a man named Mr. Thornfield, who was deeply troubled by aversion. He harbored strong dislikes and resentments towards people, situations, or experiences he perceived as unpleasant or threatening. This aversion led to anger, bitterness, and further suffering in his life. When Little Blue Lotus met Mr. Thornfield, she saw how his aversion had built walls around his heart, isolating him from others and preventing him from experiencing joy and compassion. With her tender and empathetic nature, she approached Mr. Thornfield and suggested they spend some time together. Over the course of several months, Little Blue Lotus and Mr. Thornfield engaged in various activities that encouraged him to face his aversions head-on. During their time together, they shared many conversations about life and the nature of emotions. One day, as they strolled through a beautiful garden, Little Blue Lotus remarked, "You know, the beauty of a garden lies not only in the flowers, but also in the thorns and weeds. In life, too, we can learn to appreciate the challenges and difficult moments, for they are part of the rich tapestry of our existence." Mr. Thornfield listened thoughtfully, and they continued to exchange ideas as they walked. He found comfort in the gentle wisdom that Little Blue Lotus shared, and he felt his heart opening up to a new perspective on life. In another conversation, they discussed the power of compassion in overcoming aversion. Little Blue Lotus shared a simple, yet profound thought: Compassion is like a warm blanket that wraps around our hearts, melting away the ice of aversion and resentment. As Mr. Thornfield contemplated these words, he found solace in the idea of nurturing compassion within himself. He realized that by focusing on understanding and empathy, he could transform his negative emotions into opportunities for growth and understanding. With Little Blue Lotus's gentle guidance, Mr. Thornfield gradually learned to embrace the imperfections of life and let go of his aversions. As they sat by a gently flowing stream one day, she shared another insight. Just as the water finds its way around the rocks and obstacles in its path, we too can learn to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. As the storm of aversion within Mr. Thornfield's heart subsided, he began to experience a newfound sense of inner peace and compassion for others. His relationships flourished, and he became a beacon of light and kindness in his community. He even started a support group for others struggling with aversion, helping them find their own paths to healing and harmony. Having completed her 5th mission, Little Blue Lotus bid farewell to Mr. Thornfield, ready to guide the next person on their journey towards enlightenment and inner harmony. With each person she helped, her own heart grew lighter, and she moved closer to fulfilling her cosmic destiny. The gentle wisdom and warmth she shared with those she encountered continued to touch hearts and bring tenderness to the souls of all who crossed her path. Chapter 6: Softening the Pillar of Pride. Little Blue Lotus, with a heart full of love and wisdom, journeyed on to help more individuals on their paths of self-discovery. Her next encounter was with a man named Mr. Highcastle, who was burdened by the affliction of pride. He had an inflated sense of self-importance and believed himself to be superior to others. This pride created barriers between Mr. Highcastle and those around him, preventing him from developing compassion, humility, and understanding. One day, as Little Blue Lotus walked through the bustling marketplace, she noticed Mr. Highcastle standing tall and aloof, looking down upon those around him. Sensing his need for guidance, she approached him with a warm smile and gently asked if he would like to join her for a walk. As they strolled together, Little Blue Lotus engaged Mr. Highcastle in conversation, weaving subtle wisdom into their discussions. At one point, they stopped to watch a group of children playing together. "Just like the sun's rays that nurture each flower equally," she said, "compassion and kindness bring warmth to every heart, regardless of our perceived differences." Mr. Highcastle listened intently, his curiosity piqued by the gentle wisdom that Little Blue Lotus shared. Over time, they continued to converse, exploring various aspects of life and human nature. One afternoon, while they rested under the shade of a magnificent tree, Little Blue Lotus shared a thought. A tree's greatness lies not in standing tall and proud, but in its deep roots and wide branches, which provide shelter and nourishment to countless beings. Similarly, true strength and greatness come from cultivating humility and empathy for others. Mr. Highcastle contemplated her words and began to see the value in letting go of his prideful stance. As they spent more time together, he found himself opening up to the beauty of humility and the interconnectedness of all beings. In one of their conversations, they discussed the role of gratitude in overcoming pride. Little Blue Lotus smiled gently and said, "Gratitude is like a gentle rain that nourishes the soil of our hearts, allowing the seeds of humility and compassion to grow and flourish." With each passing day, Mr. Highcastle's heart softened, and he began to appreciate the kindness and goodness in others. He started to approach life with a sense of humility, recognizing the unique talents and contributions of everyone around him. As the pillar of pride crumbled within Mr. Highcastle's heart, he found himself surrounded by love and genuine connections with others. He learned to celebrate the success of others, and in doing so, he discovered a newfound sense of inner peace and contentment. With her sixth mission complete, Little Blue Lotus embraced Mr. Highcastle and continued her journey, eager to share her gentle wisdom and warmth with those in need. Each person she helped brought her one step closer to fulfilling her cosmic destiny, spreading tenderness and enlightenment to all who crossed her path. Chapter 7: Overcoming Envy. Little Blue Lotus continued her journey to help those in need, and her next encounter was with a young woman named Phoenix. Phoenix was plagued with envy and always found herself comparing her own life to the perceived success and happiness of others. This constant comparison made her feel inadequate and caused her to doubt her own worth and abilities. Upon meeting Phoenix, Little Blue Lotus could sense the weight of her envy and decided to approach her with kindness and understanding. "Why do you compare yourself to others?" she asked. "Each of us has our own unique path to walk, and comparing ourselves to others only creates suffering." Phoenix sighed, "I know, but it's hard not to feel envious when everyone else seems to have it all together. I just wish I could be as happy and successful as they are." Little Blue Lotus placed a comforting hand on Phoenix's shoulder and said, "Happiness and success look different for everyone. Instead of focusing on what others have, try to cultivate gratitude for what you have in your own life." Over the next few weeks, Little Blue Lotus spent time with Phoenix, sharing stories and wisdom about the dangers of envy and the importance of self-love and acceptance. They went on hikes, and Little Blue Lotus pointed out the beauty in nature and the uniqueness of each plant and animal they encountered. "Just as each flower has its own beauty," she said, "each person has their own unique strengths and qualities." Phoenix began to understand that her worth was not based on external factors or the success of others. She started to focus on her own journey and celebrate her own successes and accomplishments, no matter how small they may seem. One day, as they sat by a river, Little Blue Lotus asked Phoenix to close her eyes and listen to the sound of the flowing water. Just as the river flows naturally without any comparison to other bodies of water, so too should we embrace our own journey and flow naturally, she said. As Phoenix opened her eyes, she felt a sense of calm and clarity wash over her. She began to let go of her envy and embrace her own unique path, finding joy in the present moment rather than comparing herself to others. With the weight of envy lifted from her heart, Phoenix felt free to pursue her own dreams and passions. She became a source of inspiration for others, teaching them to celebrate their own uniqueness and find joy in their own journey. Little Blue Lotus, having completed her 7th mission, continued on her journey, ready to offer guidance and wisdom to the next person in need. Chapter 8: The Gentle Wind of Change. As Little Blue Lotus traveled further, she came across a quaint village where she met a man named Peter. He was sitting on his porch, gazing at the vibrant garden next door. Peter was struggling with laziness, which prevented him from pursuing his dreams and aspirations. One day, as they sat under a tree near Peter's house, Little Blue Lotus asked, "What makes your heart sing, dear friend?" Peter hesitated before he replied, "I've always dreamed of becoming a gardener, tending to plants and helping them grow. But every time I think about starting, I feel too tired and overwhelmed to begin." Little Blue Lotus nodded and said, "Sometimes, the hardest part is taking the first step. But once we begin, the journey becomes easier." As they spoke, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves above them. Little Blue Lotus smiled and asked, "Do you feel the wind, Peter?" He nodded, and she continued, "The wind is like our motivation. It comes and goes, but it's always there, waiting for us to catch it and ride its current." Peter furrowed his brow and asked, "But how do I catch this wind and overcome my laziness?" Little Blue Lotus responded, "By taking small steps and not trying to do everything at once. When you break a task into smaller pieces, it becomes easier to manage, and soon, the wind of motivation will carry you forward." Peter thought for a moment before responding, "That makes sense, but I don't even know where to begin." Little Blue Lotus gently suggested, "Why not start by planting a single seed? Nurture it and learn from it. As it grows, so will your confidence and motivation." Feeling inspired, Peter agreed and found a spot in his yard to plant the seed. As the days passed, he continued to take small steps, tending to the seed as it grew into a beautiful plant. He found that with each step, his motivation grew stronger, like a gentle breeze that propelled him forward. Throughout their time together, Little Blue Lotus and Peter had many conversations about gardening and life. They discussed the importance of patience and persistence, as well as the joy that comes from nurturing living things. Each plant has its own unique needs and desires, Little Blue Lotus explained. As you care for them, you'll discover that they have much to teach you about yourself and the world around you. As they prepared to part ways, Peter thanked Little Blue Lotus for her guidance and said, "I'll never forget the lessons you've shared with me." I promise to continue taking small steps and to cherish the gentle wind of change." Little Blue Lotus smiled warmly and replied, "Remember, my friend, the wind of change is always there, waiting for you to catch it. Just take one small step at a time." With a warm smile, Little Blue Lotus continued on her journey, having helped Peter overcome his laziness and find the motivation to pursue his dreams. Chapter 9: The Calm Within the Storm. As Little Blue Lotus continued her journey, she encountered a talented artist named Lily, who was struggling with restlessness. Lily's mind was constantly filled with racing thoughts, making it difficult for her to focus on her art and find inner peace. One day, as they sat together in Lily's studio, Little Blue Lotus asked, "What do you feel when you create your art, dear friend?" Lily sighed and replied, "I used to find solace in my art, but now my mind is always buzzing with thoughts and distractions. I can't seem to find the calm I once had." Little Blue Lotus nodded and said, "A restless mind can be like a storm, churning the waters and making it difficult to see clearly. But remember, beneath the surface, there is always calm." As they spoke, a sudden rainstorm began outside, tapping gently on the window panes. Little Blue Lotus smiled and asked, "Do you hear the rain, Lily?" Lily nodded, and Little Blue Lotus continued, "Even amidst the storm, there is a rhythm to the raindrops, a harmony that can bring peace to a restless mind." Lily pondered her words and asked, "But how can I find that harmony within myself?" Little Blue Lotus suggested, "By taking a moment to breathe and observe your thoughts without judgment. When you become aware of your restlessness, you can begin to let it go, like raindrops falling from the sky." Over the following days, Lily practiced observing her thoughts and taking deep breaths whenever she felt restless. With each breath, she felt more connected to the harmony within her, as if the storm in her mind was slowly dissipating. Little Blue Lotus and Lily spent many afternoons together, discussing art and the nature of the mind. They shared stories and insights, deepening their understanding of the world and themselves. As their time together came to an end, Lily thanked Little Blue Lotus for her wisdom and said, "You've shown me that there is calm within the storm, and for that, I am truly grateful." Little Blue Lotus embraced Lily and replied, "Remember, my friend, the harmony you seek is always within you, like the rhythm of the raindrops. Just breathe and observe, and you'll find the peace you desire." With a warm smile, Little Blue Lotus continued her journey, leaving Lily with the tools to find calm amidst the chaos and focus on her art once more. Chapter 10: The Light Within the Fog. As Little Blue Lotus carried on with her journey, she met a young man named Oliver, who was struggling with delusion. Oliver had a brilliant mind, but he was often consumed by confusion and misguided beliefs, leading him to make choices that only brought more suffering. One day, as they strolled through a dense fog, Little Blue Lotus asked Oliver, "What do you see when you look at the world, dear friend?" Oliver hesitated before answering, "I see a world filled with uncertainty and chaos. I try to make sense of it all, but I often find myself lost and bewildered." Little Blue Lotus nodded and said, "When we are surrounded by fog, it can be difficult to see the path ahead. But remember, the light within us can guide us through the darkest moments." As they spoke, the sun began to break through the fog, casting a warm glow on the path before them. Little Blue Lotus smiled and asked, "Do you see the light, Oliver?" He nodded, and she continued, "The light represents wisdom, which can help us see through confusion and guide us toward truth." Oliver considered her words and asked, "But how do I find this wisdom within myself and dispel the fog of delusion?" Little Blue Lotus responded, "By seeking understanding, asking questions, and reflecting on your experiences. The more you learn and grow, the brighter the light within you will shine." Inspired by her words, Oliver began to actively seek knowledge and wisdom, asking questions and engaging in thoughtful conversations with Little Blue Lotus and others. He discovered that the more he learned, the clearer his mind became, allowing him to make better decisions and find greater happiness. Throughout their time together, Little Blue Lotus and Oliver delved into profound discussions about the nature of reality, the importance of self-awareness, and the power of compassion. As they shared their insights, Oliver's understanding of the world deepened, and the fog of delusion began to lift. As they prepared to part ways, Oliver thanked Little Blue Lotus for her guidance and said, "You've shown me the light within the fog, and for that, I am truly grateful." Little Blue Lotus embraced Oliver and replied, "Remember, my friend, the wisdom you seek is always within you, like the sun shining through the fog. Continue to learn, grow, and shine, and you'll find the clarity you desire." With a warm smile, Little Blue Lotus continued her journey, leaving Oliver with newfound wisdom and a brighter path ahead. As the sun began to set on the 10th day, Little Blue Lotus knew that her time in the village was coming to an end. She had helped 10 individuals overcome their challenges, learn valuable lessons, and embark on their unique paths of growth and self-discovery. Her heart swelled with pride and joy, knowing that her mission was complete. Before leaving the village, Little Blue Lotus decided to visit each person she had guided on their journey. As she made her way through the village, she found herself surrounded by the warmth and gratitude of those she had helped. Each person shared their heartfelt thanks and spoke of the impact her presence had made in their lives. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Little Blue Lotus gathered with the villagers in the town square. There, they celebrated the lessons learned and the bonds forged during their time together. They danced, sang, and shared stories late into the night, creating memories that would last a lifetime. As the first light of dawn kissed the horizon, the villagers gathered to bid farewell to Little Blue Lotus. With tears in their eyes, they each shared one last embrace, knowing that her guidance had forever changed their lives. With a warm and tender smile, Little Blue Lotus spoke softly, "My dear friends, remember that the wisdom you've discovered and the growth you've experienced are now a part of you. Carry these lessons with you as you continue on your journeys, and know that I will always be with you in spirit." The villagers stood in awe, watching as their beloved Little Blue Lotus disappeared into the sky. And as they returned to their daily lives, they carried with them the wisdom, love, and light she had shared. Their hearts overflowed with gratitude, for they knew that their lives were forever changed by the gentle touch of the Little Blue Lotus. In the heavens above, Little Blue Lotus continued her own journey of growth and discovery, her heart filled with the love and lessons she had shared with the villagers. As she traveled the cosmos, she knew that her time in the village had been but a single chapter in her infinite story, a story of love, compassion, and the transformative power of self-discovery.